Welcome to the discussion. My guest today is Juliana Vida, the Group Vice President and Chief Strategy Advisor for Public Sector at Splunk. Juliana, welcome to the discussion.
Thanks. It's great to be with you again.
Let me set just a little bit of context for our conversation. Since May, when President Joe Biden issued his cyber executive order, the Office of Management Budget has been busy, to say the least, developing implementation memos and releasing them to as well. There's been a most recent memo on endpoint detection and response in late October. And before that, OMB released a draft Zero Trust strategy. Currently, they're reviewing public comments, and the final draft is expected in the coming weeks. OMB also issued memos around securing on-premise software, as well as logging incidents. And more memos and guidance are coming. The EO detailed 23 different actions that agencies are required to take on to address these systemic cybersecurity problems. Beyond the required actions, the EO also has changed the discussion about federal cybersecurity. The urgency brought on by the spate of attacks in early 2021, the surge of funding from Congress to the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency is generating what I'll call a once-in-a-generation opportunity to do more to get ahead of attackers, secure data and systems, and create a modern infrastructure that can change as the threats continue to evolve. So how can agencies use the momentum created by the EO, the funding from CISA, and the technology advancements of the market to harden their cyber resolve? Well, that's where my guest comes in once again. Juliana Vida is the Group Vice President and Chief Strategy Advisor for Public Sector at Splunk. Now, Juliana, this is a common discussion about this EO. There's a lot of excitement about it. So what is the impact beyond 23 different actions and lots of memos?
Well, I think, you and I have talked before, and I talk with customers a lot about, as you said, this is a once in a generation. It is an opportunity. It truly is. It's, we had the pandemic as kind of a burning platform for a lot of the modernization projects that agencies had on the shelf, but hadn't really gotten around to, or they weren't prioritized. We have this pandemic, and boom, agencies now have to put those projects into execution because that's how, they had people working from home, they were delivering services remotely, et cetera. So now with the cyber executive order and the following on memoranda, those are also helpful policy guidelines that not only give specifics to the agencies for do more of this, do less of that, here are some deadlines, and they're pretty aggressive, there's a lot of requirements in there, but it also allows industry to respond in a way that is truly meaningful. And for us at Splunk, it's, data and helping agencies and organizations make the best use of their data is our bread and butter. That's what we've always done. So it gives us an opportunity to become even a closer partner with the federal government and the agencies where we already have relationships, and we're broadening our relationships. This is a way for us to just show more of what we can do to help. Other industries are the same. They're responding in the same way. It's an opportunity to provide not just general, hey, we're here to help, but here's a packaged solution for you, federal agency. Let us help you with expertise. Let us help you with, just making the best value out of your investment so that you can not only meet the requirements of the EO or the memorandum, but you can also actually get to a more secure cybersecurity posture, which is what we all want. Nobody wants to be the next responsible organization for a malware attack or a SolarWinds or name any of the other high-profile attacks that happen. Nobody wants that. We all live here. Our children, our water supply, our electrical supply, our food supply, all of that, we all want it to be secure. So this is a great opportunity for us to just, like I said, continue to partner to accelerate moving to that modern future.
You bring up this idea of the cyber EO and the memos that come with it, and they're aggressive deadlines, aggressive goals, but they're also not so prescriptive. And I think that's one of the things that OMB, I'll give them credit, over the years have learned, that you want to give agencies enough roadway, but not too much, right? It can't be the Autobahn where they can go 80 miles an hour in any direction they want, but they also can't be the, if you will, the little old lady on the road going 10 miles an hour in a 25 or a 40 zone. Is that helpful for you as industry to see that is that wide area, plenty of place to play, if you will?
Sure, because every agency is different, their mission sets are different, their leadership is different, the style and all of that. So that gives us enough to come in and say, here are the broad categories of where we can help you without being so specific and detailed that we can't scale. I mean, we have to be able to scale. We have to be able to serve a bunch of different customers and build partnerships across, within agencies and across agencies. So it's a win-win. It's a win for each of the agencies to, show some creativity, show some innovation, show some, let the people come up with the solution that works best given the domain that they have knowledge on, their domain knowledge. But also put some guide rails there. To your example on the Autobahn, you've got to have some rules and regulations. And I really do think it's a win-win. We're seeing it already. Organizations that, back to the pandemic example, they wanted to do stuff. They wanted to put their plans in place, but maybe still haven't done it for whatever reason. And now here's another reason and another way for them to do that in a way that makes sense for them, given their maturity, quite frankly.
And each agency is at a different level of maturity. We see that with the reports to Congress, the Federal Information Security Management Act reports, FISMA reports. How should they start looking at the EO? Because they just can't do it all. They have to kind of prioritize, of course. They have to see where their high value assets are. I remember just listening just the other day to a CIO who said, we don't have enough money to do everything, and we're not going to be able to do everything. So how do you help them, or from your perspective, or industry can help them kind of address that prioritization?
Right. Well, in many cases, in all cases, agencies have already made investments. They've already purchased certain products or tool sets or platforms, in the case of Splunk. So what we can do now is to help them get more value out of those investments. So I like to use the example of the smartphone. And if I spend $500 on my smartphone and I only ever use it to text people and I would say make a phone call, but nobody really does that, or check my social feed, that's a pretty expensive phone. But if I take the time to go ask somebody to help me, how do I do these apps, or how do I, make the best value of the phone? Now it's a pretty good investment because I run my life with it. I do everything on it. Same with the investments that government and government agencies have made. We know they've made investments, they'll continue to. Where we can come in, other industry partners can come in, is to give prescriptive support. Let us help you map your journey. Literally, where are you today with your maturity in terms of technology? Where do you want to be? Not only by the milestones that are laid out in the EO, but as an organization. What's your moonshot? Where do you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And let's sit down and figure out how to get you there. We have solution engineers to do that. I'm sure other companies do too. So that's how we can help provide a little bit of how-to when there might be a lot of questions about, well, where do we start? Can't do it all, to your point. And with the budget, even with the Technology Modernization Fund, I heard one CIO of an agency say the other day, she calls it's a down payment. Yes, it's $1 billion, but it's not nearly enough. And but it's a start. And so we can work within those guidelines to just help our customers move forward.
And we were both at that panel at the Imagination Nation conference where the CIO panel talked about, and you heard different CIOs say, well, of course we put money in for Zero Trust, and of course we put a proposal in for this. And it was one agency that said, oh, I have 5 pending before the project. So as we heard OMB tell us, I think there was over 100 proposals, over $2 billion in requests. So there's never enough money. Right. So when you take that and then you add on top of that what CISA is getting, and more money potentially is coming to CISA through the Infrastructure Act that the president is likely or has signed, there is more money coming from the spending bill that eventually hopefully gets through. So there is money to be found. Is that why this prioritization, this map, becomes more important? So again, not unlimited money, but you have to kind of set yourself up, and data can drive that prioritization, not just HVAs, but.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, you made.
I made your point.
You did
We've
make
been
the
hanging
point.
out too much.
I've been waiting, and you gave me the entree. So, the data can tell you where you're actually spending the money, because human beings, we have our own biases, we have our own memories, we have our own things that we're tied to that we never want to let go of. Another analogy. So you go to clean out your closet. What's the rule? If you haven't worn something in 2 years, you get rid of it. Okay, so you look in your closet, you have all this stuff, and you say, nah, I really can't get rid of that because it's sentimental value. Or I know I've worn that. And oh my gosh, I think I wore that 6 months ago. But if you had a sensor on every one of your hangers, you might be able to derive the data to show, no, you actually haven't touched most of it. And so when you let the data do the talking, it can drive those insights for you and take it off your shoulders and get rid of some of the infighting with people who are, they have different priorities about where the money should be spent. The data will tell you, you've touched this system, 5 times in the last month, you haven't touched this system in a year. And those are realistic examples. And boy, the efficiency, that you can gather from just, and the problems you can avoid with your coworkers, and fighting about funding.
I think we have an idea here for that hangar thing. We'll talk later. I know some people, I know a VC or two who may be interested.
You heard it here first.
I heard it here first, exactly. As we kind of look out, and I mentioned at the beginning all these memos that OMB put out there, and it's compared the OMB memos to the movie Fast and Furious, right? They just, not only are there 9 movies, they just keep coming.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you're hearing from your customers? What's some of the conversations you're having, whether it's memo related or just more broadly related to cyber?
Yeah. Well, we've been focusing on one particular memo, and that's related to Section 8 of the EO, and the memo is M21 TAC 31. And
you memorized that.
I memorized
that.
And it has to do with the logging requirement, the log management, log retention, and all of that. Why? Because Splunk started as a log management company, and so we have a lot of expertise in that area. And we've built a reputation over years for being trusted and being a robust platform to be able to do that. So we're a perfect partner to come in and say, let us help you with this part, because Splunk, every other company out there that wants to help, can't do it all. They could, but the depth of experience wouldn't be there. So we've been focusing on this M2131. And what we're finding is that agencies often, back to your point about they don't know where to start. Well, when you start with the logs, that's like the ground truth of, we talk in general terms about listen to your data, or go back and look at the logs and figure out where the cybersecurity event happened. But that takes a lot of deep inspection, and it takes a lot of time. And unless you have this robust data analytics platform to do it, it can just be another burden on the agency. If agencies want to use their workforce to manually go through logs and try to meet these requirements of the EO, but also, still maintain a good cybersecurity posture, that's a losing proposition. So that's where we come in to talk about, let's look again at your investment that you have in Splunk and figure out how to make the best value of it. And poof, before you know it, you'll be compliant with the OMB, that particular memorandum, and we can help you move on to something else.
This idea of logging incidents, and I just want to touch upon that just in case if folks aren't maybe as clear what that is understanding everything that kind of hits your network, and understanding it in a way that you can determine that's normal or that's abnormal, and if it's abnormal, how abnormal is it? Is it just, oh, someone made a mistake, or oh, that's the Chinese trying to get through our network?
Yeah.
I'm simplifying it, I know.
Exactly. I mean, you can think of it as the data footprint. It's the look back of what has happened, and it's the memory of all the things, like you said, have touched the network. And analysts can then look for patterns. They're not looking for the one-off.
Right.
And those patterns can be when there's a known vulnerability, those patterns can be easy to find. When it's not a known or it's a 0 day, it might take a while. But with orchestration and automation and more robust analytics behind the log management and the log review, then that's when analysts can be more efficient. They can focus on the real problems and not just be caught in the noise, because there's so much going on in cyberspace that a lot of them, they just get fatigued and they burn out. So.
And I think that's what OMB is really trying to do, is get the agencies through that noise so they understand what is, if you will, what's the real issue they're trying to address.
Yeah, exactly.
Juliana, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we can continue our conversation. You're listening to the discussion Innovation in Government, sponsored by Carahsoft on Federal News Network.